and welcome to Books Boba, a book club and podcast featuring books by Asian and Asian American authors. My name is Marvin Yua, joined by my co-host,
Rira Yu.
And this is our December 2016 mid-month episode where we bring you the latest in book news, new releases, and hot takes on the literary world. This episode, we're joined by Mr. Dan Rickmers.
Hello.
Who is a member of our book club.
That's true.
And
I was here.
Was here, yeah. We brought him in.
I was like, what are you guys doing? Podcast? Okay, sure.
He is our second backup.
Yeah.
First choice.
Every time. Dan is an independent video game developer.
I make games.
And an avid reader. And this month, in addition to talking about the book news, we'll be having a little chat about a certain British boy wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Harry Potter.
I will end you.
And its effect on, our culture since its inception almost like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I mean, it was first published in 98, I think.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
But before we get to that, let's go through the news of the Asian American literary world.
Yeah. So let's start with new releases. So these are books that were either released earlier this month or are coming out in a few weeks. And first on our list is The Secret of a Heart Note by Stacey Lee, and it's published by Catherine Teagan Books. It's going to be released December 27th, 2016. And it's a contemporary fantasy about Mimosa, a 16-year-old aroma expert who uses her extra sensitive sense of smell to mix perfumes that help others fall in love while protecting her own heart at all costs. But when she accidentally gives an elixir to the wrong woman and has to rely on the love-sick woman's son, who happens to be a soccer player, soccer star, to help fix the situation, Mim quickly begins to realize that falling in love isn't always a choice you can make. For those of you who are into Asian American books, you probably recognize Stacey Lee. She's written Under a Painted Sky. She's released quite a number of Asian American books. So, yeah, check out her other books as well.
That sounds YAS.
It is YAS.
Awesome. Also releasing this month is Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerall, published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Books for young readers. Here is the book description. 17-year-old Britta Flannery is at ease only in the woods with her dagger and bow. She spends her days tracking criminals alongside her father, a legendary bounty hunter. That is, until her father is murdered. The alleged killer is none other than her father's former apprentice, the only friend she's ever known. Now Brit must go on a dangerous quest in the world of warring kingdoms, mad kings, and dark magic to find the real killer.
Yeah,
that sounds like it's going to be a movie in a year.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's some fun fantasy stuff.
The cover looks beautiful, and I just love YA fantasy full of betrayal.
That sounds great.
And murder.
What else is releasing this month?
Next on our list is The Boy Who Escaped Paradise, a novel by J.M. Lee, also known as Lee Jung-myung, who is a famous Korean author. The book is translated by Cheong Kim and published by Pegasus Books. The book releases on December 20th. The book description goes, an unidentified body of a former North Korean citizen is found in Queens, New York, with mysterious numbers etched in blood around the corpse. Kilmo, a mathematically gifted immigrant from North Korea, is arrested for the crime. He is unable to remember if he committed the murder or how he arrived at the crime scene. Angela, a CIA operative, is assigned to gain his trust and access his unique thought process by posing as Kilmo's attending nurse. Sorry, I had to say Kilmo with a Korean accent because it just sounds weird if I say Kilmo. Because it sounds like Gizmo, sort of.
Sounds more like Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah,
if you say it that way.
But that's cool.
I think we need max authenticity for all of our descriptions because we are probably the standard bearers for authenticity.
Yeah, think of all of the podcasts who probably mispronounced
Yeah.
the character's name.
We add that extra. I can't really do that like lol sound.
Lol.
It's really hard for me because I'm Chinese, so we don't
yeah,
really
like
do
how
that.
you say doll instead of toy.
No, I do that on purpose to mess with people.
Okay, as long as it's on purpose, and
Yeah.
not like
I do it for comedy.
It sounds cool though, like a mystery story. Like I'm all out.
That's like like North Korean Jason Bourne, right?
But
Is
it
that I'm
sounds-
getting vibes from that?
But
I
it
don't know.
sounds so good. Like
Well,
I
I
really
mean-
want to read it.
That's cool. Yeah.
Jason Bourne novels are good.
Yeah,
I mean, and some of the movies.
I love like murder mysteries. They're always like so much fun to read.
Yeah.
So
Next up is a book that was released earlier this month, December 13th, 2016. It's Lotus and Feather by Ji Li Jiang, author of the memoir Red Scarf Girl, illustrated by Julie Downing, and published by Disney Hyperion. It's a picture book that tells the story of Lotus, a little girl without a voice who cares for an injured crane named Feather. One day, Feather foretells the danger of a flood, and Lotus and her grandmother alert the villagers. The two friends suddenly become the village heroes, but Lotus knows that she will have to let Feather go to migrate with the rest of the cranes.
So it's a
That's
picture.
nice.
It's a picture book. It's for ages 3 and up. It's about 40 pages.
It's like that episode of Pokemon where Ash has to let his Butterfree go.
Actually, interesting thing about that picture book. It's inspired by a true story about a crane that actually did alert a village about an oncoming flood. So that's pretty interesting.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read that to my imaginary kids.
I mean, it's a good Christmas present. I mean, is it coming out? Yeah, it's coming
It's out. Yeah, it came out last
came
week.
out.
So
I would think you would read an imaginary book to your imaginary kids. Wouldn't they like it better? They'd relate to it more.
Okay, next
You
on
got
our
me
list
there.
is Show Me a Mountain by Carrie Young, and it's published by Bloomsbury Circus. It released earlier this month, and it's about Fei Wang, a woman caught between worlds. Her father is a Chinese immigrant who conjured a fortune out of nothing, and her mother is of African heritage who grew up on a plantation and now reigns over a mansion in Jamaica. So it's a historical fiction novel, and I don't know. Like, I haven't really heard much about it. I literally just found out that this came out earlier this month, like 10 minutes ago. So
Oh yeah, that was a late edition you were
it was
doing.
a late edition.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last on our new releases list.
Last but not least is The Flying Lessons and Other Stories, edited by Ellen O, published by Crown Books for Young Readers, releasing early January 3rd, 2017. Whether it's basketball dreams, family fiascos, first crushes, or new neighborhoods, this bold anthology, written by the best children's authors, celebrates the uniqueness and universality in all of us. The anthology is published in partnership with We Need Diverse Books and features authors Kwame Alexander, Saman Chantiani, Matt De La Pena, Tim Federle, Grace Lynn, Meg Medina, Walter Dean Myers, Tim Tingle, Jacqueline Woodson, and Kelly J. Baptist. Wow, you gave me the really hard one
I'm
with all the
so
names.
sorry.
The name minefield.
It's an anthology.
Yeah, written by, I know the We Need Diverse Books is a hashtag that we've been really
Yeah, it is
using
a
a lot too.
movement.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Ellen O is the author of Prophecy, if you guys don't know her. But she's one of the co-founders of We Need Diverse Books.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And those are our new releases for December and early January 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's crazy how many books are just being released by Asian American authors every month.
Yeah, like every month I always dread this task of digging up books by Asian American authors because I'm like, is there going to be enough? But surprisingly,
Yeah.
there's a lot every month.
I would think it would be hard to read them all if you were.
I'm
to
pretty
task
sure
yourself with
I
that.
missed some. So if there's a book that you know that's written by an Asian American author that came out earlier this month, please let us know.
Yeah, put it up in our Goodreads forums. Books and Boba has a group page on Goodreads, and that's the easiest way to get a hold of us as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next up is the news.
Yeah. News and book deals. Also, we need music.
We had a theme song last time, right?
Live from Pasadena. No.
Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first in our book news, Simon & Schuster bought the North American rights for Charlene Teo's debut novel, Pointy, or Ponty. I think it's Pointy. It's Ponti. Tia won the Deborah Rogers Writers Award for her unpublished manuscript earlier in the spring, and the story follows the friendship between two girls growing up in sultry, sweaty Singapore. The novel is tentatively slated for 2018.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, the author is Singaporean.
McElderry Books has also acquired world rights to Clever Little Witch, a picture book written by Muan Van and illustrated by Hye-won Yum. Hye-won. Got it. We at Books Boba, 100% authenticity here. About a witch who comes up with innovative ways to get rid of her baby brother, only to realize she's drastically underestimated him and her appreciation for him. Publication is set for summer 2019. That sounds cute.
Yeah, good for young readers out there. And earlier this month, Good Girls Marry Doctors, South Asian American Daughters on Obedience and Rebellion. It's an anthology, and the contributors did a reading and book signing at the Last Bookstore in downtown LA earlier this month. And as you can guess from the title, it is an anthology that examines the multiple facets of daughterhood in South Asian American families. So, yeah, there's a couple of pretty cool South Asian writers and Muslim writers included in the anthology, so check it out. That book already came out.
Yeah, our friend and fellow potluck podcaster Taz Ahmed is one of the curators, right?
Yep, one of the contributors.
So congrats to everyone on that, and definitely something you want to read in this day and age to kind of, put yourself in other people's shoes, especially those of...
Let's not talk of dark times.
We Need Diverse Books, the aforementioned movement, is launching their curated books app, Our Story, in January 2017. The app will use a database of more than 1,200 books reflecting diverse characters and themes that librarians, educators, parents, and children can search for reading recommendations. The app has two versions, one for parents, teens, and children who are looking for diverse books, while the other helps librarians and teachers on their search to find diverse books appropriate for their classrooms or patrons. How do we get on that? I feel like we should be a part of that.
Hit us up.
I think our podcast should be part of that curriculum, right?
Yeah. Speaking of joining, so we were part of a live chat earlier this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was asleep during it, but you participated on behalf of Books and Boba. So
yeah, on behalf of Books and Boba, Fresh Creatives, Collabcast, and the Potluck Podcast Network that we're a part of, there was a live Twitter Q&A sponsored by one of the hosts of the No Totally podcast, and it's hashtag support POC pods, and it was a live Q&A, just an open invite to people to answer questions and talk about independent podcasting. And I mean, in all media, we need more diverse voices because, the world is becoming more and more multicultural, especially, our country. And it's important to create content and media that reflects that.
Yeah, and it's also really important to have crossovers, to have an intersectionality, because at least for our book club, I really don't want it to just be oh, you're not Asian, you can't join us, because I don't want that. I want people who are just open-minded and who want to read diverse stories to join, and hence Dan.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, and definitely it's as important as it is to see our own stories reflected in the media. It's also important to see how other people react to it, and to bring the open mind, because it's easy. It's easy, we talk a lot about bubbles, right? It's easy to be in this bubble of our own stories, but it's equally important to see how our stories affect other people, how it opens, avenues and channels for empathy, and, for us to also be broad in what we read too. Rira is a part of at least 10 book clubs?
No, just 2. Well, I was part of 3, but then actually I'm going to connect this. I'm going to segue this. I can do this. But the other book club, I was I joined it when I was in college, and I didn't know any of the people there. I joined because I wanted to meet new people who were really into books. And for their first book that they picked, it was the third book in a series, and I had never heard of the series before, and I don't remember it, but I remember asking oh, is this standalone? Can you still read it without reading the other books? And they were I mean, you can technically, but like you should probably read the other two. And I'm like, then, and I said, why are we reading the third book? Then we should read the
this
first.
is the first book of this new book club.
Yeah, and
I feel like they're doing something wrong there.
And like and then I found out like all of the other girls were like friends with each other, and they had already read the other two books, and like I'm like the odd one who was just like, hey, I don't know you guys, but I want to like join your book club. And
makes it hard to kind of get in.
Yeah, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave because I can't deal with for future references. This book club, Books and Boba, we're not going to read like we're
going to read part 3 only after we've read parts 1 and 2, so you can go back.
Yes,
and listen to
we
our
will.
discussion.
We will at least start with the first book because I really don't like that.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, and that's for those of you listening to or coming into our book club down the line, you'll notice that Rira spends a lot of time thinking about her book choices, like way more than I do. I just like, oh, what's next? Okay, cool.
I have charts. It's color coded by genre.
It's for reasons that will become apparent once we talk about our Pottermore sorting houses.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's move on to our discussion topic. So every month in our mid-month episode, because we're not talking about our book yet, we want to just talk about broad or focused or...
Yeah, like book culture, book life, book chat. And sometimes it's not going to be like Asian American focused, but but it will have that Asian American perspective though, because Marvin and I are
and we're kind of on separate ends of the book landscape, whereas Rira's been reading for, I don't think you've ever stopped, right?
What do you mean stopped?
Like stopped, because I had a big lapse. Like before Heron Complex, I hadn't read a like fiction novel in maybe 10 or 12 years.
Oh.
So I'm kind of getting back into this mode of reading stuff for fun, but also for this thing that we do. Where are you on that, Dan?
I think I'm more aligned with you as opposed to Rira, because I know that she pretty much always has her nose in a book, which is a good thing, and it's something that I've always been, I've always admired, and I've always kind of wanted to be more like that. And I've just kind of picked up a book every once in a while,
It's been good. It's been good. I mean, I listen to audiobooks, but mostly for nonfiction. I feel like when I read fiction, I need the book, and not just like on my Kindle or whatever. I need like the book.
Like you need the physical touch of like the pages and just like the smell of like
maybe
paper.
not the smell.
I love the
real
smell
stinky
but
book.
the tactile feeling of progress when you flip a page. It's speaking of books, though, before we get to our main discussion, a quick reminder that this month, December 2016's book choice for Books and Boba is How to Survive in a Science Fiction... No,
How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe.
Got it. By Charles Yu. We'll be holding our live meetup for that book at the end of next week, which would be this coming Sunday in LA. Check out our Facebook page for more information. And we'll be releasing our podcast discussion before the new year.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't finished the book yet and plan on coming to our meetup, read fast. The rest of you guys, you have until the end of the month.
Or technically forever, because it just goes up online, right?
I can wait, yeah.
Yeah, I can wait. Also, I'm really excited for the boba place that we're meeting at, because like it's a boba shop that has like this special drink where they put like a giant cotton candy into your boba drink. So I'm really excited about that. Anyway, moving on.
Let's talk about this month. So this came about because I guess Harry Potter is back in the news with a new movie that just came out.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Although it seemed like they were dropping the and where to find them, because when I went to go see it in theaters, like
Well, it was set up like all the other Harry Potter titles where it's Harry Potter and then like the subtitle.
But it was
very
really small though.
in the corner.
I don't know. But I found out that Marvin has not read Harry Potter.
So this came out in another podcast that I do, and I've seen most of the movies. I don't think I've seen Half-Blood Prince, but I've seen at least... There's 7 books, right?
Yes.
So I've seen at least 5 of the movies.
Half-Blood Prince. I'd say that was the best book.
What?
Was it?
No.
Or am I thinking of the other one?
Half-Blood Prince is like the 5th book.
5th book. Oh, wait, what's the best?
Oh, no, that's not the 5th book. The
It's
6th
the penultimate
book. Sorry.
one, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one. I'm thinking of the one with
The
Cedric.
Oh,
Which one is that?
That's the Goblet of
Goblet of
Fire.
Fire. Goblet of
Fire.
Even
That's my
I
favorite
know
book.
that.
Yes.
yes.
Because that one has Wizard Hunger Games in it.
Yes.
That's the best book.
So, like, why... I mean, Harry Potter is such, like, a big pop cultural thing. Why did you not get around to reading it? No, I'm not, like, throwing shade or anything.
this
I'm
is, like,
just
yeah.
curious.
To be honest, it's because I think when Harry Potter started getting big is when I was in high school, right? 1990. It started in 98, right?
Yeah, but it didn't get big in America because they first came out in England first.
Right.
So, like, it didn't become a big thing until 2000.
So this was past when I stopped, like, kind of paying attention to newer stories, I guess. My generation, especially my class of people, I think we missed it. We missed the Harry Potter book by like maybe 2-3 years. Because I know definitely people I knew from college that were 2 or 3 years younger than me were super into it. Like, it was like their jam. For us, like, you know, especially when the first couple books came out, it was like kid stories. It's about kids.
Oh yeah, it was
right?
it was like children's books.
Yeah, so we didn't really have that thing where we grew up with them. There were definitely people that I knew that were super into, like, who were into reading, that were really into it. And you know, there are things about it that really, I mean, they hook you, right? It's a good serialized story. It's very descriptive, from what I understand, and they have built-in like horoscopes. So you can say who you are, like the houses and stuff, right? So obviously, like, you know, I'm this. It's kind of like when I was a kid, Ninja Turtles were really huge, and we all had our Ninja Turtle. Everyone wanted to be Michelangelo. And then so you take that and extrapolate into like a whole team, right?
What Ninja Turtle were you?
There's always the aspirational one, and there's the one you wish you were, and the one that you actually know you are. Like, I'm probably more with Donatello, even though I wanted to be more like Leonardo, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with Potter. Like, you know, you take the Pottermore survey, which is like the official one, right?
It's the official one, but I don't really believe that it does a very good job of sorting people.
I mean, I say live your truth. You can be whatever house you want to be in, whatever house you feel you are. You don't have to let J.K. Rowling tell you what house you're in.
I mean, here's the thing, though, right? I want to be Ravenclaw because they're smart people, and
I'm
like, you know,
Ravenclaw, yes.
in the world of like
this.
in the world of what you want to be, you know, Ravenclaw, they're like the Batman. They're like the people who use their brains to solve crime. Whereas like the Gryffindors, which I got sorted in, are like the Supermen. They's like, oh, let's be brave and shit, right? And who wants to be that? That's kind of lame, right? But in my heart of hearts, I know I really am more of a Gryffindor, because like even this podcast, like we mentioned earlier, Dan's like a second backup. And Reva's kind of trying to go through like, all right, what are our backup plans? Let's do something. I'm like, let's just do it, right? Which is a very like Gryffindor-ish trait,
bravery,
which is just to
charge
like
head in.
say, screw it, let's just let's see what happens.
Yeah, but you know, I'm pretty much Ravenclaw myself. I took the Pottermore quiz, and it also said that, and then everything pretty much says like, Rira, you said that you've had like number of quizzes that you've taken that
I've
like kind of given you
pretty much every single quiz on every single sorting quiz on the internet, because I like wanted to be sure, and I was sure because I've always gotten Ravenclaw. There was one quiz that was like 120 questions, and I went through it, and they sorted me into Ravenclaw and told me like what percentages of like other houses that my brain kind of falls under. But when I took the new Pottermore quiz, I got sorted into Slytherin, and you would think that I would be really upset about this, but actually I was like extremely flattered, because I was like, oh, Slytherins actually get things done. And I am not one of those people. Like I am the person who like plans and plans and plans, and then I kind of need like a push to actually like finish anything. So I was like, not a Slytherin. I don't know why you sorted me here, but I am flattered.
So like I said, there's, especially with personality quizzes in general, it's like how you take the quiz, right? And it becomes either this is something that you aspire to, or this is something that you are, right? And I think that comes out in the Harry Potter lore. See, even though I haven't read a lot of Harry Potter, I've dug deep into the Wikia.
Oh my god, that's
the Cliff's Notes.
inexcusable.
I think that a lot of it
So I know what Hatstall means.
That the school element is a big part of why people really got into Harry Potter, because you had these schools that like that had all these personalities, and like it said that like that you belong in one of these 4 houses no matter who you are, right? Like no one ever didn't get sorted into one, so it kind of allows you to kind of connect to it and kind of feel like you're a part of it. So when you're reading the book, the things that happen to people in each school, you kind of feel like a kinship with them, kind of like you would if you really were into like a sports team, whereas with the sports team, it's like kind of like your proximity. Like you're like, I live in New York, so I'm the New Yorkers, that sports team. And, and when you're in Ravenclaw, it's like, when you see a Ravenclaw character do something smart, you're like, yeah, that's me. That's my team. We got those 10 points.
But so to answer your original question. Yeah, it's kind of more of a timing thing than anything else. I mean, we watched the movie. I remember watching the second movie, The Chamber of Secrets, my first year in college. And it was like a college outing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, definitely I have peers my age that were super into Harry Potter. Yeah. And those are usually the ones that didn't stop reading.
So by watching the movies and not reading the books, do you feel like you've gotten like kind of everything out of the Harry Potter franchise, or like would there be some kind of impetus to go and read the book sometime?
It's a lot of pages to read, to be honest.
But it's fantasy. Like with fantasy, you want those big books. You want those tomes because you want to be in another world for 10 hours at least.
I guess for me, it's the nostalgia doesn't come from the books. It comes from the movies. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to relive the story of Harry Potter, I would just go back and watch the movies again.
I remember being really mad when the movies came out because when I first started reading Harry Potter, I was 11. So I was the same age as Harry in the first books.
Yeah, I was about the same age as well.
And like the books are very descriptive, and I had pictured everything in my head, and then when I saw the movie, I was just like, it did a very good job, but at the same time, they didn't get everything, so I was like, it's not the same.
It's like they like mainline the story, and they kind of like leave out a lot of the parts that I liked, which was just kind of like hanging out at Hogwarts.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though, when it comes to making even the movies were like 2-3 hours, and even then they're ranging on long with lots of setup shots of the school being the school. And I think that was an issue I personally had with Fantastic Beasts, the newest movie, because they all still spend a lot of time setting up the world, where I would have much rather them just be more focused on the story.
Yeah, I had the same thought. Like, I thought, like, I was actually really disappointed by Fantastic Beasts, and my expectations were pretty low. So, I mean, I watched it with Dan, and, like, you saw how upset I was when we walked out of the theater.
Yeah, you were inconsolable.
I was.
Oh, you didn't like it at all?
I mean, I thought that it was filmed really well, and I thought, like, the costuming was great, and the visual effects was fantastic, but like, story-wise, it felt a little flimsy to me. There was, like, not enough plot for me. And I guess, like, it's interesting that you said, like, oh, they do a lot of setup for world building, because I thought they didn't do enough world building for magical America. And
well, yeah, what I meant was they did a lot of, like, look at all the magical stuff going on in this building.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
look at this, like, then expand and turn into, like, something crazy. But I do agree that, like, I wish the narrative, like the world building aspect of that was more purposeful.
Yeah, like we actually had a conversation with our writer friends who went to go see the movie with us, and two main points from Fantastic Beasts came up. One was diversity and like racial erasure, and and then the second one was just like
the world.
Just the world.
I mean, I get that. I guess how much of that is the fact that this is the first like original work to come out.
Oh yeah,
and it didn't fit with your like headcanon.
Yeah,
and because I know a lot of people had this issue also with Cursed Child, but that one was more.
That's
With
like
Cursed
based on the
Child,
characters.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you have like the main characters from the books, whereas like with Fantastic Beasts, like you have new characters.
Yeah, it's pretty much a
Right.
clean break.
But like the second, like another point that like came up with, like I said, diversity and like racial erasure. I knew the minute that I saw the trailer. I mean, I guess even before the trailer, because like when you read the books, you don't really see a lot of character. I mean, you do see characters of color in the periphery in the books, but they are given very like minor roles. So like I knew that like from my like past experience like reading the books, it's like, okay, like I might it might be a long shot to see people of color acting in major roles in this movie. And I was actually surprised that like the Madam President in Fantastic Beasts was like a woman of color, but at the same time, like her like racial background had nothing to do with her character. It was kind of like colorblind casting. There was no nuance to it, and I was really upset about that.
I wonder if that's because it does. So, Fantastic Beasts is historical fiction, right? It takes place in fake I want to say 20s New York,
20s.
post World War I, pre World War II, and that was a time when, like you wouldn't have African Americans in positions of power.
Yeah.
It's like a good 40 years before the Civil Rights Act, right?
I just thought it was weird because it was like the movie obviously borrows from like real history of like civil rights movement and just like equality, but you don't really see that translate into like racial backgrounds in like the wizarding world. And I'm a little bit curious on how that works, you know?
I wonder how racism works in the wizarding world, because they're not racist based on like the color of your skin, right? Because they do have like, I guess, African wizards in like the council meeting or something, right?
Yeah.
But it's based on whether or not you're magical, which is like
But at
also
the same
racism.
time, but at the same time, I would expect some nuances, you know, because they do have to like hide from Muggles. They are still part of like the Muggle universe, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like, how do you deal with that? Like,
Yeah, it's not the traditional society, so you would say like perhaps there's space there for anyone of color or anyone who is like kind of like in a lower position in society to kind of like rise up in that society specifically.
I do agree, though, that it is something that's glossed over that could have used some more fleshing out.
yeah,
Right? She's seen as this obviously person who's respected and in power, but those of us who, I guess, pay attention to the setting and what these cultural implications would have been at the time. There's more to that story there that isn't explored.
Same thing with the main supporting character, Tina, the Auror who got fired and who's helping out Newt Scamander. She's Jewish, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with your character. Like they repeat your last name over and over again, but like I don't really see how that like translates into her like going undercover as a Muggle sometimes. I mean, this is before World War II, before like the Holocaust and everything, but there was still like this, racial tension, and like people were like immigrants were treated terribly.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
were.
just like, why do I not see that? And also it's like the 1920s, like jazz age, like
Prohibition era, yeah.
yeah, it's like where, like, I was really upset when I saw a black house elf like singing as like a jazz singer, and I'm like, you couldn't hire like just like a black actress to just play that role.
So the picture that's forming here is just a lot of missed shots for this type
Lots of
show.
missed shots.
Especially for I mean, going back to the original series, like I remember, I think it was Goblet of Fire, the one that Dan said that was his favorite Harry Potter, that had like the introduction of Cho Chang, which I remember at the time for like the Asian American community was like a big deal.
It was a big deal.
It was like Corrigan cast. I remember because like even though I didn't read Harry Potter, enough people were excited about Harry Potter's Asian girlfriend. right? That was the big thing. And who was going to play her? There was this big casting call, right? I remember there was like an open casting call to find.
Well, there was an open casting call for all of the Harry Potter actors because they are child actors, teen actors. I remember when I first came across Cho Chang in the books, like you would, like I thought I would be happy to see someone who looks like me in the series that I love, in this world that I really, really hold dear to my heart. But I really, really hated Cho Chang when I was reading the books, like as like a 13, 14-year-old. I was like, it's just like, oh, of course, like some like I was like first off I was like, Cho Chang, like what kind of name is that? Like is she Chinese? Like is she like I was trying to like do the I was just like, okay, well is she from like Ireland? Is she from like Scotland? She's from Europe, so like what Asian ethnicity would she be? And I remember doing all of these hoops, being like, okay, well let's say she's Chinese British. Okay, why is her name Cho Chang? Also, she is sorted into Ravenclaw, the smart, like the smart house. Like, isn't that just kind of fitting her into model minority? and then like the thought of like, and with like Harry having a crush on her, I guess like a lot of my white friends at the time, they thought like, it's like, oh, it's because she's pretty. But then I also had like the thought of, oh, does he like her because she is quote unquote exotic looking? Because there is this trope of having having like a like making Asian girls like desirable and like kind of like exotic and sexy. And I'm like, okay, well, does he like her for those reasons? And I was only 13 years old at the time, and I still had those thoughts. And with the movie, I wasn't really happy with that either.
It sounds like you just have a problem with the way that the film Harry Potter.
Well, that was when the book came out.
Right?
That was when the book came out.
Yeah.
I was like, when I was reading the book, I was just like, And the only saving grace for me when it came to Cho Chang, I was like, oh, she's athletic. Okay, she's part of the Quidditch team. Like that. That is like, okay, she doesn't fit into all of the stereotypes, but.
That's interesting. I mean, as someone who didn't follow the series, like no word for word, for me, it was more, that's awesome that there is another chance to get represented.
I think with like the character of Cho Chang, at least there was like a lot of like baggage from the community being like, oh, my model minority, and also like she's not like this kick-ass female, but at the same time she's like a minor character. You can't really like expect her to be that outstanding. And she's not the only Asian character in the Harry Potter series. You have like the Patil twins, one's in Gryffindor and one's in Ravenclaw, and for all I remember, like I don't remember them fitting into stereotypes really. Or maybe I have to read it again. I'm not sure.
I mean, from the movie watcher perspective, you saw that there's Indian twins, and you saw that there was Cho Chang.
Yeah, but you see them; they're like in the peripheries. They kind of like fill up the
part
background.
Of like they're part of the cast of background characters that you see.
Yeah. Actually, ironically, like I think I was really upset about the Patil twins in the movies, because in Goblet of Fire, the fourth movie. You see them all dressed up in their gowns, and the Patil twins are in like saris and like traditional Indian clothes. And I remember I was watching that movie with like my Indian friend, and she said, "Oh my god, like they're dressed in like servant colors." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's like not okay." and when like why. I don't know. It just
So I guess it comes down to, and it's another reason why we need diverse stories in books, because as well intentioned as I'm sure J.K. Rowling had for including characters that look like the world we live in, and props where props is due. Like 1980s to 90s UK was probably as diverse as, or more diverse than she was showing. We still have the problem of including diversity but not really doing the legwork.
Just making like bit parts.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the characters are there. The characterizations aren't exactly where they should be. Even for like big characters, whoever was doing the costuming there should have known.
They should have known.
And that's something that you won't notice unless you have that cultural kind of background or that cultural knowledge, right?
Yeah. And it's the same thing with like when she came up with like, oh, like these are all the magical schools in the world, and I read the one about like the magic school in the wizarding school in Japan. I think I was so mad that I just like kind of shut my computer down, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go lie down and just pretend.
Wait, what was wrong with that? I didn't read that. Or what were the issues?
Oh my god, so many issues. Okay, so it's like the Japanese magic school. Like one of the first facts that you learn is that the Japanese wizards, they if you have a wand made of cherry tree wood, you're like highly respected among your peers. And I was like, that's just really weird. Okay. But also like I think it was
Sakura is very, I don't know.
Oh god, no. But like it just seemed really
was it very like kitschy, like very oh, you learn Asian culture through watching Kung Fu films
it was because like
Kill
the castle that she described the school to be, it's like oh, the walls are made out of jade and like and like the roof is like golden, and almost like, oh my god.
Did they explain the four schools? Was it the four gods, like the four animal?
I don't think she went that far, but
I think that's more of the legwork thing that you're talking about. That maybe that would have made it better.
Well, I mean, there's the thing, like, so, like you said, like your issues with Cho Chang wasn't that, oh, she's just an Asian character. It was, you didn't know what she was, right? Like, even if it's the cover basis, like the author should have had a couple sentences talking about where Cho Chang came from. Basically, like Asian is not. You can't just say this person's Asian,
right? And I expect that to be the characterization. And that'd be the end of it.
I mean, same thing with like you don't really know much about like immigration in like the wizarding community, or just like, oh, like can like Chinese wizards like immigrate to the UK? Like are there like different like magical like
jurisdictions or district lines? And I think it comes down to for an author that spends so much time crafting the world and the reasons things exist and histories, like there's this whole idea that this has been a world that has existed alongside the human world since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So the fact that even these small details, like there's certain small but obvious details that aren't fleshed out is kind of sucky. Especially when it comes to representation and diversity.
Yeah. I mean, right? I think with like the original Harry Potter series, like it's very, very well done, the world building, but like with like Magical America, like the stuff that she wrote about the American wizarding school, like that was not okay. That was like borrowing from Native American culture and like not in a very good way, and like it was just pure appropriation.
I mean, hearing what you said about the Japanese wizarding school, it kind of feels like all the non-English, non-European schools were kind of half like.
But at the same time, like I can be a little bit more forgiving on that, because she had like years of like research for Hogwarts and like magical England,
and
whereas like with these worlds, like
it was probably like people bugging her for like months to come up with something. And bringing it back to Harry Potter as a cultural, my touch points with Harry Potter is like, big budget movies, like spectacles, right? But also I do remember the hype around Cho Chang, right? That there's going to be an Asian character in Harry Potter, this big movie, even though it's just for one movie, and then she becomes even more of a background character after that. I remember that was a big moment, right?
Yeah, because I don't think at that time you saw a lot of teen Asian actors who spoke fluent English, whether it was American accent or British accent. But it was a big deal because it's just like, oh, like finally someone who like isn't going to speak with a broken accent.
So I guess to wrap it up in terms of why we need more diverse stories. And
Yeah.
not just not just including diverse characters, but having like, even if they're side characters or background characters, to not just leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
Because there will be people asking questions. Like, if you want diverse fans, you're going to need to kind of treat them all as important.
I'm not going to be counting on Fantastic Beasts to bring on my diverse magical people, because there are plenty of Asian American
Fanfics.
writers, and there are plenty of Asian American writers, Black writers, and Latino writers who are writing fantasy, and they're featuring people of color as their protagonists. So I'm like, yes, more magical people. And like, I would like to think that some of them were inspired by Harry Potter. They read it when they were young, and it inspired them to write. I mean, I was inspired to write when I read Harry Potter, so I don't know. Like, maybe we will see.
So yeah, that was our discussion of Harry Potter. Thanks for joining us, Dan. Thanks for
having me.
Rira. And I guess that'll do it for this mid-month episode of Books and Boba. Thanks again for listening and joining in. If you have any thoughts about Harry Potter, its impact on your, I guess, social or cultural consciousness, or just think I'm a bad person for never reading any of the books, never planning on reading any of the books.
Never planning.
Whoa.
There's like a billion
You
pages.
should at
Life
least
is long.
read the first book.
I've seen the movies.
The first book is like 200 pages. You can finish it.
I need to finish
The
our
book
next
of
book.
You have to finish this month's book.
Yeah.
Have you started?
This month's book, again, is How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe by Charles Yu. We'll be discussing that at the end of the month. I read the first page.
Oh no!
I feel like it's an important
You have
book
less
because
than a week to finish.
I've been feeling like we've been living more and more in a science fictional universe, so I need to know how to be safe. So I'm looking forward to
So
our
we got
discussion.
the book for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm on it. You know me, I binge, so...
Read
this is
responsibly.
fun. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
All right, keep reading.
Bye. This episode of Books and Boba was hosted by Marvin Yue, Rira Yu, and Dan Rickmers, and produced and edited by Marvin Yue. For further discussion on the books covered at Books and Boba, please visit our Goodreads forum. You can find the link on our Facebook page at Books and Boba, as well as by searching for the group Books and Boba on Goodreads.com. Books and Boba is also a proud member of the Potluck Podcast Collective, a brand new collective of Asian American podcasts and podcasters. You can learn more about the collective as well as check out our founding slate of programs by visiting the website www.podcastpotluck.com.
Potluck.